This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. We're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will bring you the latest edition of Between the Pods. And that, of course, is from the Iowa Soybean Association. It's time now for our closing market summary.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day, I'm joined by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for our closing market summary. Robin, what did we see take place in the grains today?
Well, in the corn and soybeans, we really chopped around quite a bit, and but the end result is just mixed close. It doesn't seem like there was just a really whole lot to really grab onto by the traders now. Soybean meal was down all day long. That just really didn't find a solid footing at all. And wheat was lower, especially the Kansas City wheat. That was down quite a bit more than the Chicago wheat. But really not a whole lot. Now, we did see some estimates come out by Allendale. They put out their estimates for the corn, soybeans, and wheat for the year. They're looking at 93.472 million acres. That's down 1.169 from last year. Soybeans at 83.6 million, down actually up 2.232 million acres. That's vastly different than what USDA had put forth on their forum that took place in February. So it'll be really interesting to see where it all actually comes in at. But, and again, that wasn't anything that was a market mover at all today. It's just another estimates that came out. The prospective plantings at the end of March, that's going to be probably a bigger issue. That could be more of a market mover. Now, wheat, they estimate at 49.574 million acres, down 1.953 from a year ago. Now, on the other side, Conab out of Brazil, they came out with, again, another monthly soybean and corn estimate for this month compared to February. They have corn production now at 112.753 million tons. That's down 944,000 tons from their February estimate. The bigger deal was soybeans at 146.9 million tons. That's down 2.545 million tons from their February estimate. So they're really actually putting a little more negativity or on yield potential for the soybeans rather than the corn at this point in time. So that's something that hasn't been really into the market today as a market mover. It's just something to keep in mind. Now they're progressing with their harvesting. Now they are also looking at I'm moving across to Argentina. Argentina is looking at considering a reintroducing of something similar to the soy dollar that they had before, and so that they can enhance some foreign exchange rate for their exporters. So that may stimulate a little bit more export business out of Argentina. So that's something to really keep an eye on, because that could really impact, over our overall demand. Now, March March futures contracts went off the board today, so May takes over as front month. So again, we had some different prices on some of those versus the other ones. But anyway, that's behind us now. So if you're looking at your futures quotes and you see March isn't there when it comes into tomorrow. That's the reason it is. So we're looking at May right now. Soybean harvest is really close to starting in Argentina, but they've been deluged with some rain just recently. Now there's some talk about impacting soybean quality. But, again, just like everything else, it's too early to tell. We've seen a lot of adverse weather that's taken place in the U.S. and other parts of the world. Gets a little bit of airplay, and then really in the big picture, it's not that much of an issue. So it's just something to look at, but it's not anything, again, most of the stuff, nothing really that was a big, huge market mover today. And that's what the markets reflected.
So on the other side of the ag marketplace in the livestock sector, any movement there today?
Yeah, we had some really strong movement in the cattle market. Now, we had some triple-digit gains. It's been able to maintain itself on support. We might be breaking out of the sideways trading pattern on live cattle that we've been in for a couple of weeks with the movement today. However, the April contract for live cattle still was not able to close the chart gap. Now, we moved into that chart gap a couple of days ago. That's been sitting there for quite a while. Today, we moved up against that again. Still not enough to push it to close that chart gap. That chart gap will probably be closed sooner rather than later, but it's becoming a formidable resistance at this point in time. But we saw some nice gains again. We didn't see any real cash activity taking place. Now, in the South, they've got offers. Feedlots are offering 187. The northern markets, nothing's being offered yet. Packers aren't bidding yet. It's pretty standard. Normally, most of the business gets taken care of late on Thursday and Friday. So we'll have to wait till tomorrow to see where the Packers are looking at. But right now, the anticipation is because we had the stronger cash prices developing last week, $2 to $4 higher depending on the area, that we might see steady prices at best this week. The cattle packers have been slowing slaughter pace in order to improve their margins, and they've been able to improve box beef prices, but yet they haven't really been able to back up cattle into the market. So it's not accomplishing that purpose. They still have to be somewhat aggressive in that market. So the midday box beef was mixed today. Choice was down 85, select up 59. But it's really been seeing some nice gains over the last week and a half, indicating consumer demand is still fairly strong yet. So, but Packers, they're going to try to hold the line. Now, last week, they bought about 33% of the cattle for deferred delivery. So that makes them possibly a little less aggressive this week. So we'll see how that pans out. Now on the hogs, hogs came back nicely after trading lower for a good bit of the day. Cutouts really didn't do a whole lot at the morning report. They were down 2 cents. Well, that's a good sign because we really didn't see a whole lot more than that. The afternoon report might show a little bit something different. Now, they didn't show any national direct morning report for the difference in cash. They just posted the carcass price at or I should say the weighted average price at 78.38. So there was some Packer confidentiality situations there where they didn't release that change in price. But so far, really, hogs are seeming to be in an uptrend. Good demand has surfaced for the hogs. There's some consideration that maybe some of the hog supplies are tightening a little bit, but we have to wait a little bit longer to see whether that's going to continue, because Packers have been more aggressive in the cash market the last number of weeks than they had been for quite some time. And that's why we're continuing to maintain an uptrend in the hogs.
Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net with our closing market summary today. Robin, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
You can call me directly if they would like. My number is 877-256-3253. If they'd prefer to go to our website, agmarket.net, you can call in on the 844 number and somebody will pick up the phone and help out.
Well, Robin, thank you so much for the time here today. Hopefully you get a chance to get outside and enjoy some of that nice weather in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Sometimes you feel like when it's nice weather, you should move your office outside, but I appreciate having the time to spend with you today.
Thank you to Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for our market summary today. Let's turn now to the closing numbers, which can be found under the Markets tab on our website at iowaagnet.com.
May corn is down a half cent at $4.41 1/4. May soybeans up 3/4 cent at $11.96 3/4. May soybean meal down $2.80 at $3.3640. May soybean oil up 75 cents at $48.57. Chicago wheat down 3 1/4 at $5.44 1/4. Minneapolis wheat down 8 1/2 at $6.63 1/2. Kansas City hard red wheat down 9 3/4 at $5.87 1/2. And May oats up 1/4 cent at $3.73 even. On the Merc, April live cattle up $1.67 at $189.92. March feeder cattle up $1.30 at $250.27. April lean hogs down 47 cents at $84.87. April pork cutout up 10 cents at $92.60 and Class 3 milk up 10 cents at $16.54.
That's our market coverage for today. It's time now to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. Up next is the latest edition of Between the Pods.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
You're watching Ag Matters PM, and it is time now for Between the Pods. Between the Pods is the bi-weekly segment here on Ag Matters PM, where we talk about all things relating to Iowa soybeans. In today's segment, I am joined by Brent Renner. He is an at-large director for the Iowa Soybean Association.
It's time to go between the pods with the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network and the Iowa Soybean Association. For the next year, we will explore the ways Iowa-grown soybeans are making a difference at home and around the world. Now, here's your host of Between the Pods, Mark Magnuson.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I am joined today by Brent Renner. We are at Farm Forward. It is the Iowa Soybean Association event, which looks towards the future of Iowa soybeans and how they can be implemented into just about anything. And of course, today I wanted to talk with Brent about overseas markets, expanding those, and making sure that that demand stays high. And Brent, you are on the board of the Iowa Soybean Association. Could you tell us, please, which district you are a member from?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from District 2. That's north central Iowa. I serve as an at-large director, so I represent all the soybean farmers from the state of Iowa, but I happen to come from District 2.
And Brent, you recently took a trip overseas to the Philippines and Korea. Could you tell us how that trip went for you, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Fascinating trip. Have not been to either of those countries in the past, so getting to understand what the dynamics of their market and their uses for soybean are was a good opportunity. South Korea, I think, other than the fact that they do have a maybe bit of a declining population and culture, there's a focus on high quality feeds for their expanding need for protein and in animal growing their animal herds. They still are, I think, if I understand correctly, they will ship whole beans, but they also do some meal. We did visit a port and saw some meal from a competitor to try to kind of compare and also promote some of what we think are better quality protein and soybean meal sources from the United States. The Philippines is predominantly a meal buying country, and they've got a good relationship with AGP and a lot of the meal that goes out of our Pacific Northwest ports. So,
So, Brent, on a trip like that, what are the biggest selling points for the United States soybean? Is it just the quality of the bean? Is it the infrastructure and the ability and the reliability, I guess, to get that bean to those areas? What do you find time and again that you learn on those trips?
So absolutely, I think the number one thing that we can sell is our quality. We saw it firsthand. I think we have a higher quality product. If you want to get an in-depth discussion with a feed mill or an animal nutritionist over there about our amino acid profile in our soybean meal, digestibility, all of those things, I think we have the upper hand. But of course, there's always the issue of price and shipping costs and other things that we have to figure out how to compete with our competitors on. So,
Brent, when you look at the expanding landscape for overseas markets, what are some of those markets? Let's start off again with the Philippines and South Korea. Are they very, very mature markets? Do they still have some room for growth?
Both have, I think, some room for growth. In the Philippines case, it's an extremely crowded country. I don't know how much growth is left in a island continent like that. South Korea, I think there's room for growth. There definitely is room for growth, but their diet has changed as their culture has changed. They used to eat rice 3 times a day. The younger generation doesn't do that anymore, and now that they can afford animal protein, those kind of markets will continue to grow. I think the overall 10,000 foot level thing is in regards to our markets is that we need to continue to facilitate and attempt to grow these markets, even if they look small compared to China, because we can't always rely on China to just always consume everything that we throw at them. So, lessons learned from the past, I think we want to continue to develop good relationships with these smaller countries to encourage growth from our, I think, higher quality product than their competitors.
So from this side of looking at things, Brent, at an event like this, we're at Farm Forward today in downtown Des Moines, which is an Iowa Soybean Association event looking at the future of soybeans and where they're headed. What are the discussion topics on just this very thing that we're talking about, expanding those overseas markets and making sure that they're strong for the future?
Yeah, that for sure, and also coupled with some what appears to be some new demand for the oil. That makes a country like the Philippines so much more important because they're asking for our meal, not our oil. And if we continue to grow these climate smart biofuel markets, then we need to focus on what we're going to do with meal and keep the oil on our shores. So.
You can very easily just kind of look at where all of the trade delegation missions go, where the Iowa Soybean Association visits to kind of figure this out. But what are the countries then that still have a ways to go where you can still grow that potential export market and know that it could be a market for the future?
We talked a lot about India this morning. I think that's kind of a sleeping giant. I think that's going to be one that we focus on a lot more in the future. There's obviously a lot of challenges that go along with that, but that for sure is one. And I would say most of subcontinent Asia, Indochina, those areas I think have a lot of room for growth yet. So,
and then Brent, is it pretty easy to say that you can clearly see the hard work that is going into everything, and there's no sense of complacency when it comes to export markets and the potential for those to still grow? Absolutely.
I think there's no question. What did our president say this morning? For every dollar invested, we're seeing a return of 12. So I think there's a definite urgency to continue that trend and show our soybean farmers that what we're doing here is paying back.
And in your interactions with your fellow farmers, are they well aware of that same fact and knowing exactly where they are with needing to have these export markets to continue to grow?
Absolutely. I've had, this is my 7th year on the board, and we've had these conversations quite often. And yes, there's a renewed importance after you go through a trade situation like we did with China a few years back that we need to continue to develop these other markets.
He is Brent Renner with the Iowa Soybean Association. Brent, is there anything else you'd like to let our viewers, our listeners know about here in the state of Iowa, about all the hard work that Iowa Soybean Association is doing with this very topic we've discussed here today?
Become involved. We're always looking for new board members, new members to help our efforts at the State House and even in Washington. So please get involved with us. We'd enjoy to have partners in this effort.
Thanks so much, Brent. Have a great rest of the Farm Forward event, and hopefully we'll speak again soon. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Brent Renner for taking the time to join us for that conversation. And that wraps up today's news headlines and brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and X. You can find our video content and previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget as well that we have free twice daily market podcast, which can be heard on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. On behalf of Riley Smith and Dustin Huffman and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.